I have to remind people, I've just fucking left the biggest prison in the country, male prison. That's where you see hate. That men, you can smell the breath, the spit's landing on your lip. I was put under investigation for taking drugs into the prison.
Taking drugs into the prison?
Taking drugs into the prison and taking drugs myself. So that allegation was put in 3 times. Blessings for me always come in disguise. It's almost like I've got to fall in the biggest piece of shit to then be given a diamond.
I always say, right, we could go through the worst things in our life, but when you look back on what you've gone through and how far you are now, sometimes you go, I was meant to go through that.
I always knew I wasn't destined for a 9 till 5 job.
Didn't stimulate your mind.
And I just thought I'm going to apply to be a prison officer. And at the time when I applied, it wasn't for rehabilitation. It wasn't for anything other than a promotion and a paycheck. I wanted one of them shiny suits, and I wanted to pull home a decent income to say that I'm successful, because that's what my mind was conditioned into believing. I think that a lot of people in society believe, especially the younger generation, that to say you're happy and you're content in life, it must mean that you've got 6 figures in the bank. It's a social experiment. They rented out, Channel 4 rented Shrewsbury Prison, which is a prison now that's closed for prisoners but open to the public. So they rented that out for 10 days, and they put approximately 40 ex-offenders in there. So you
can rent them?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Some stories challenge what we think we know. My guest today spent years on the inside, not as an inmate, but as a prison officer. She's seen firsthand the struggles, the cycles, and the untold stories of people society often writes off. Now she's on a mission to change the public's opinion on offenders and open a conversation that too many people avoid. Please welcome Mel. Welcome on the show, Mel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Now, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, busy, and everything's forever going wrong, but still very blessed.
Brilliant, okay. Well, we've all got unread chapters to talk about in our lives, haven't we? Now, can I ask you yours?
My untold chapter?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, what a question. Where do I start? You said we've only got half an hour.
Gone in the deep end there, haven't I?
I grew up on a council estate, one of 4.
Same.
Quite a difficult childhood. It was very dysfunctional. Now as an adult, I understand.
Yeah.
But when you're in a child's mind, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't really like school. I went to school for 2 reasons, for the social life and for sports. And I was very good. Yeah, that's it. That was my social life. And sports, I was just really, really a natural sportswoman. And once I'd got boobs, started to discover makeup, dossing out on the streets, because that's what, is known from the area that I lived in on a Friday night. You go, get your fags, your cider.
Roughing it.
Yeah, get in a field and get twatted. And I was just really angry at the world. I felt very lost. I didn't know where I belonged or what I wanted to be. School, although I didn't like it, it was my safety net. It was my regime. So when I went into being a prison officer, I can understand how, although you don't like a regime every single day, day in, day out, when that regime's then broken, you can feel lost. You just don't know what to do. So I went through quite an angry stage, hit the nightclubs. Wasn't necessarily, in my opinion, the trouble causer, but I definitely couldn't walk away from trouble. If I knocked a glass of wine on your pretty white dress and apologised for it, and you didn't take my apology and wanted to then cause a row, I would have no problems in going outside that nightclub and having a scrap. And
I'll have you round the corner.
It was, looking back, it's so ugly, because I'm nothing like that person now. I quite like the person that I am now, and, physical violence to me is a last resort, whereas when I was 18, 19, it was every weekend for some reason I would end up in trouble. And I felt like I was heading in one direction, and that was prison.
Yeah.
I started to adapt to being a young woman, got my own place pretty quickly, and then went into support work, working for disabled adults. I liked it. It just didn't give me a thrill. I knew that it wasn't going to be my forever job. I always knew I wasn't destined for a 9 till 5 job.
Didn't stimulate your mind.
And I just thought I'm going to apply to be a prison officer. And at the time when I applied, it wasn't for rehabilitation. It wasn't for anything other than a promotion and a paycheck. I wanted one of them shiny suits, and I wanted to pull home a decent income to say that I'm successful, because that's what my mind was conditioned into believing. I think that a lot of people in society believe, especially the younger generation, that to say you're happy and you're content in life, it must mean that you've got six figures in the bank. And I was going down that same sort of route, I suppose.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from there as well. Probably relate to that in ways, because you're just thinking money because you've not had much and you keep pushing.
Everything that you see as well, like on TV, on social media, you know, the young generation sort of look at that and think that's what success is. And I was no different. So I rocked upon the landings in the biggest prison in the country. Felt a little bit like an imposter, if I'm honest. I remember walking down the route and saying, "Hello, YO from Charlie to 8," and thinking, are these really busting me with a set of keys and a radio? And I went out there and I was a bit of Mr. Trunchbull. You spend 3 months in training, again, being conditioned, because you all go in there different individuals, but yet when you've qualified, you all come out wearing the same, looking the same, speaking the same, shoulders back. And I was no different. I was the exact same. I went out there just trying to catch drugs and phones and have a squeaky clean landing, so every time an inspector jumped on, he could mark my name down and say, very good at a job, she deserves that promotion. I was hated for it. So the prisoners didn't like me. At the time, I thought I was right about everything. So the prisoners didn't really like me, and then I fell pregnant. And then when I fell pregnant, that sort of changed everything. I didn't feel maternal growing up. I didn't feel like motherhood was going to be my thing. I mean, I always said, yeah, I'd like kids, but I just didn't really see me holding a little baby. And I still now don't coo over little babies and get broody. So I was very scared about being a mom. And when I was pregnant, they pulled me off the units and put me in the mailroom. And that was just such an eye-opener for me, because to work in the mailroom and read what they're writing to their wives and the mothers, and then calling me a fat slag out on the landing, I was a little bit like, oh, so you have got a heart then?
So you're going through the emotions, what all family members are feeling, and they're putting all the emotions in these letters. You're reading all them, and then you're going out there then on the wing and getting called. So you're like, oh, 1 minute you're like, got to act tough, then you've got to emotional side.
I think it was just, I'd wrote them off. Like most people, you know, that's the worst of our society. They're in prison. A lot of them have done bad things. And then you read, I mean, I was hormonal, pregnant, reading the letters. You're only supposed to read so much of the letters. But I was hooked. You know, I'd open up a letter and I'm skimming through. There's no intel in there. There's no drugs or there's no phones. He's just begging his wife not to fucking divorce him. And I'm like, fucking hell, what's going on here? I couldn't wait for the next week when she wrote back to him. And I'm like, yeah, go on, fucking give it to him. It was like an OK magazine, reading it all. And then that sort of changed my perception. Think, you know, maybe I've got it a little bit wrong. Not fully wrong, but a little bit. And then I became a mother. And I just remember, even though I carried this baby for 9 months, I've got all this shit around me. I know I'm going to be a mom. When that baby was put in my arms and they said, this is your daughter, I could cry now. I was just like, oh my God.
And they're going to cry with you, because I was the same.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe that this beautiful little baby was mine, and I loved her so much. I was like, oh my God, I love her. You know, I questioned, because I'm not an angry person now, but growing up in a dysfunctional house where smashing a TV remote up the wall or thumping a hole in a door every other week, it was the norm. So my way of venting frustration and then going through a period of constantly fighting, I just felt like I was going to end up like one of my parents who I didn't want to end up like. So to hold Maggie, is my daughter's name, in my arms and just be like, mate, me and you are going to fucking smash life. So then when I went back out onto the units, my landing was different. So there was probably, I had a landing of 80, 81 was my full roll. And I would probably say there's about 8 to 15 of them left that knew me as Miss Trunchbull. So the rest of them, it was like a fresh slate. But I wasn't the new officer anymore. So you know when you have a supply teacher at school and you're just like, I'm fucking loving this lesson because I am going to take the piss. Do you understand what I mean? It was like that, being a new officer. So when I went back out onto the units, they thought I was new, but I wasn't. I did have some experience under my belt, and I just went out there with a different approach and started to get to know them. Right, is that done now? Is that first question answered?
Yeah.
That took me a while. Sorry, I told you I was going to go all the way around.
Don't worry about it. But what would you like to change with the justice system?
I think that what you see on the news and in the media isn't all what it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
I mean, most days it's same shit, different day in prison. When it kicks off, it does kick off. You know, you see the most horrendous things, but most days it's chilled. They all just want to do the time and get on with it. I really try and tell the public how quick it is and easy it is for someone to end up in prison on a hefty stretch. Most people think you've got to be a bad person involved in crime or gang culture to cop a prison sentence, and you don't. You can make one mistake. Some of the things that I've done, you know, fighting, I've repeatedly punched someone in the head, and I've met people in prison that have punched someone once and killed them.
Yes.
What makes them different to me? Who am I to judge them?
I think quite a lot stems from mental health as well. Like, you know, your mind is the most powerfulest tool that we have.
Yeah.
So if you're not in the right mindset and you're drinking and, you know, some cocktail of drugs, you don't even know who they are.
I know. When they get into court,
May wake up and go, what happened?
yeah,
You
a
know,
lot of them are in
started
denial.
saying-
I didn't do that. I couldn't possibly have done that. And then
I know.
they watch the CCTV back, and you're like, yeah, that's you, isn't it, mate? And that's you with a knife. And
Yeah, I do like, you know, because obviously, you know, there is bad people that do bad things and they go out and set out to do whatever, but there is people that do suffer really bad with mental health. There's no support out there, and then they're down and they're drugs or drink to make them feel happy.
yeah,
And
there's a lot
then
of drugs and
something-
alcohol in prison.
Yeah.
A lot of mental health. Awful, really. You know, you go out there and you think that you're going to meet the worst of society, and yeah, a small percentage of them are troubled. A lot of them are troubled, but my argument is, if we continue to punish them and make them feel even more shit about themselves and they're already troubled, what are we then releasing back on the streets? Because it's fairly naive to think that locking someone in, you know, a bog standard council-sized bathroom for 23 and a half hours a day is rehabilitation. So if we really care about our communities and want to see people do well and rehabilitate, there's got to be an element of kindness behind the prison doors.
Yeah.
And there isn't.
So the support. So obviously, you know, we're touching on mental health. That's a big factor in everything we do in life, isn't it? You know, but like, what would you know, like, say someone was in prison for a long time and they're due to, I don't know what it's all called. Is it called parole or whatever? I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
I think they got that off a film. Probably Breaking Bad or something mad like that. But so, you know, like rehabilitation. So how does that work? So say like someone's been in prison and obviously life's changed, isn't it? You know, the way it's going now, we'll have flying cars in about 15 years' time, you know what I mean? But like, what is the for them when they come out? Is there something like a work experience where they can, like, you know, train to be a plumber, a joiner or whatever on the inside? Do you know what I mean? Like some sort of tutoring to get them ready for back in the outside world so that they don't end up back in because they don't know nothing else. That's all they've known. They might have been there 5, 10, 15, 20 years, who knows? But what is there for them when they come out?
There are things facilitated for prisoners in UK jails, and it would come across, you know, if I was to show you all the statistics on paper of what prisons do have available, a lot of people would argue that, well, that it's not working. And I agree. I do agree, because there are educational courses that prisoners can take out, and then there are courses that they can do down on the workshops, bricklaying courses, painting and decorating, mechanics, the railway track. That's a fantastic course to get on.
There is something.
Yeah,
for
and the
them.
railway track does
Right,
offer a job at the end of it, and it is a job that's above minimum wage.
Oh,
you know, a
okay.
lot of prisoners, especially prisoners that are involved in the drug culture, it's okay saying to them, here's how to make a brick wall, but who wants to go and make a brick wall for £14 an hour when they know how to pull in 14 grand an hour selling drugs?
Yeah.
And then they've become accustomed to living that lifestyle. The wife's become accustomed to living that lifestyle. He feels, I worked in a man's prison, by the way, he feels that he's got pressure then put on his shoulders to continue that lifestyle for the wife and for the kids. So it's very easy for them to go back to drugs. I think that the problem is all the other problems in prison, the drugs, the bullying, the debt, the mental health. How do you then get someone to engage in a maths course when they ain't going to see the light of day again for another 10 years? Why would they feel motivated to do that maths course? It's a very slow, steady race, and it takes a lot of encouragement. Come on, that maths course is worthwhile. Get that maths under your belt, and you can go on to something else.
I wouldn't want to be doing maths and working numbers every day.
Maths was my fucking worst lesson at school. I hated it.
Like that English writing, anyone who can't write properly or anything like that, learn them how to do that. They may be able to do a journal every day. They're allowed to keep books, like, and write a journal.
Prison has come forward. I mean, people laugh at me sometimes and be like, go back to when it was fucking grueling, porridge and water and the slop out days. I'm doing a tour tomorrow at Gloucester Prison with a governor who was on the units, back in the 80s and 90s. And when me and him have conversations, we're both blown away by each other's difference of opinions within the justice system. He would say, they're given too much now. They have a choice. What would you like for breakfast? Would you like this or would you like this? Some people argue and say, fuck them, just feed them.
What do they have for breakfast?
Well, for breakfast is a breakfast pack. So, your little Kellogg's, not your big Kellogg's boxes, but the little multi-packs. It's the equivalent size of one of them and a little carton of milk. And they have that on the evening the night before. So they've got it in the cell ready. So it's warm milk with some nasty-ass cereal. It's not the most pleasant.
Cardboard cornflakes.
Yeah, they're like the chocolate Cocoa Pops when they used to get pulled off the shelves. I would see more hands in that box than I would the Kellogg's. Not that it would be Kellogg's, it would be the cheaper brand. For lunch, it's a very mixed-match meal. You'll have an option of a pie or a pasty, and with that you can have some potatoes or a bag of crisps. So a lot of the meals will be, a sausage roll, a pack of crisps, a couple of slices of bread.
So they're not getting like a full like a
no, and a lot
meal.
of the food goes straight down the gobbler because that's like a big incinerator in the kitchen. A lot of them cook, so they can buy off the canteen, and they will come up with the most inventive ways to cook. A lot of them cook out the kettle. So a lot of them will feed themselves, and the prison food actually goes straight down the gobbler. And this is another thing that I have to point out that taxpayers pay for. We pay for that money, and rather than, they're already cooking. A lot of men, believe it or not, I mean, I don't know what if your partner, if you've got a partner, if he cooks for you, but I'm pretty sure if he ends up...
Definitely not, and I remain single as well.
That is probably why you look so beautifully put together and your life's so fucking in order. Ask me if I've got one.
I say stress-free, but, running a business and everything is stressful.
A lot of men will imply they can't cook, they don't want to cook, and then when they get to prison, they learn to cook from scratch. You don't buy jars of sauces in. You will buy all the seasoning, all the veg, cook a meal from scratch. There'll be someone on the rice, someone on the prep, someone on stripping the chicken on a Sunday. That's what I found beautiful about it.
Yeah.
That although to some people it looks like nothing, as an officer standing there watching it all unfold, without him with the seasoning and without him with the garlic and the peppers and him that can stay out over lunch and strip the chicken, none of them would be having that hour on soch eating the most beautiful food. I used to say, you fucking count me in on that chicken curry. It was beautiful.
Oh, I'd be eating the chicken as it's going along the line because I'd be starving by the sounds of what they're eating there. Cause,
they always say it's undercooked, and that's the reason that they'll strip it when it comes in from the kitchens and then further cook it themselves.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you.
Go on.
Okay. Why did you leave?
Okay, so it's a very long story. I hope you've got all day. Okay, so here goes. I was put under investigation for taking drugs into the prison.
Taking drugs into the
prison and taking drugs myself. So that allegation was put in 3 times. The first 2 times, security put it down to bitterness from an ex-partner. The third time, it was still sent by that same partner. We'll get to it. I'm going to blow you away in a minute. That partner, on the third time that he'd done it, he sent a video of me rolling a spliff. So because there was video evidence of some of it being true, I went under investigation for the whole lot. At the time when I was under investigation or was about to go under investigation, I knew he'd sent the video because he'd tagged me in it.
Yeah.
But I was currently off on sick with a broken toe. So I'd already called.
Sorry to laugh.
No,
but you
it's
just, yeah.
I know,
you
it's
remind
crazy.
me of myself in a way because I'm talking about one thing and I'll throw
I know,
something
I'm
else
terrible.
in.
I go off on
But
tangents.
It's good. I'm listening. I'm there.
So I broke my toe. I remember going back up on shift on the Sunday. I got through the gatehouse. Security was there waiting for me. They asked me to follow them up to the board meetings.
Wow.
They asked for my ID and my badge, told me that I was under investigation. I knew that I could leave and resign, but I didn't want to. I wasn't doing anything wrong in my eyes. We'll get to that. So I wasn't
Okay.
taking any drugs into HMP.
Something else in the bag there to pull out.
I did roll a spliff. So
Okay.
some would argue, a lot would argue, I'm locking up criminals for possession of a Class B, and then there's me skinning up a fat one.
Yeah.
So the person that I was rolling a spliff for was at the time my partner's dad, who had just got out of hospital, and you can see him in the video next to me shaking, hence the reason for him not being able to roll.
Yeah.
So I've said, let me roll the spliff. That's what put me under investigation. The first thing they asked me to do was do a drug test. So I complied and done that drug test, and it came back negative. And then within 5 minutes of a quick break, I went into what felt like a full interrogation. I had head of security representing me, or not representing me, sitting next to me, supporting me.
Yeah.
And I had another member of SMT, a very beautiful blonde, who I will not name, who I just knew didn't like me. She was the one interviewing me. I was a bag of nerves. Even though I knew that I'd done nothing wrong, I remember not knowing how to spell my surname. They had told me I'd got to wait 15 minutes for the drug test to come back, the results of the 15 minutes, and we all sat in that room in suits in silence. So
Felt
I
like
remember my
forever.
palms getting really sweaty, and I knew that one of them was going to come back negative because of the broken toe. I was on codeine. So they'd already said, you know, if that is true and you are on codeine, it will flash up that you've but they wouldn't tell me which one. So in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, you know, is it going to come back negative? You know, whatever. It came back that I'd got the clear for that, and then once the investigation was over, I started to make an application to HMP Birmingham. So because the 3 allegations that had gone in by my ex-partner, I'd felt at the time that once I'd cleared my name, one, I've still got to go back out onto them units once being under investigation, and staff are bigger bitches than the prisoners. So already there was speculation about myself, I suppose, with allegations going in. And I wanted a fresh start, if I'm being completely honest. A fresh start still within the prison service, but not where this partner knew me.
Yeah.
Now, you're probably coming to the conclusion that this partner's a wanker. It's probably going to shock you that I'm now back
Let it all out, man.
Probably going to
That's
shock
what
you
you're
that
here for.
I'm now back with him. I'm now back with this same partner. So, sorry, I missed a little bit out. Before applying for the
I'm
green...
with you, don't worry. I do the same.
So before
every time.
applying for HMP Birmingham,
Yeah.
I was also slammed with a court order that my partner was taking me to the family courts to remove my children from my care. So that was a big factor with...
Oh, so you've had both battles there
fucking
going on,
hell, a
haven't ya?
complete and utter just
Wow.
breakdown. And in my head, you know,
Yeah.
me and this partner have got a lot of history. We've got children together, and
Wow.
I was just like, regardless of how bad the relationship's got, even if it was true, I would never do that to him. Never
Yeah, yeah.
mind him to fabricate more lies on top, because the truth of it is I did roll that spliff, but he knew I wasn't taking drugs in.
Yeah.
We went to court. My partner, by the way, also, I feel the need to mention he's a barrister. So when I stepped in them courtrooms, although I was a prison officer and in a trusted position, I felt like I was going up against a barrister that had finances, that had a lot of knowledge within the law, and I was just stood there, you know, deep down, a fucking little bit of a Vicky Pollard from a council estate, fighting for my children. And I fought like cat and dog in that courtroom. Eventually, towards the end, it went on for 2 years. He walked into the final hearing and admitted it was malicious. His brother had died a couple of weeks prior. I hadn't seen him for 2 years, apart from in a courtroom. Me and him met up when his brother had died. He said, I left you, I'd done what I'd done to you because you left me. I left him.
That's horrendous. That is
It is.
horrendous. Yeah.
It is.
To put you through that.
Yeah. He says now,
know?
people say to me, you know, you're very stupid for giving him. And if my partner was a narcissistic, gaslighting, toxic, twisted prick, then I would agree. And I would be saying the same to you now, like, this man clearly doesn't love you. My partner's was an addict, which was another reason why I ended up having so much empathy for addiction in prison, because my partner sober doesn't swear, doesn't put a seatbelt, will not put his seatbelt on before he won't not put a seatbelt on before he's even started the engine.
Yeah.
Very prim and proper, very well-to-do. And I remember on our first date, me saying to him, like, how would you describe yourself? And he said, a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde, you know, that's how my friends describe me. And he really is.
Yeah,
You know, put
definitely, yeah.
alcohol in his system and he can't drink, he just can't. Once he pops, he can't stop. And then you're dealing with a whole different person.
No traffic lights, just go green and go.
Yeah,
Keep
and
going.
money as well. You know, he's got a lot of money. So eventually when I sort of left him, I was queuing up in a food bank. I had no job. I was not sleeping.
How long ago was that?
This was a year ago.
A year ago?
A year ago.
Jesus.
I know a lot's
wow.
happened. A lot's happened.
Wow.
But I do
Right.
say blessings for me always come in disguise. It's almost like I've got to fall in the biggest piece of shit to then be given a diamond. I don't know why, but that's just the way my life works.
Well, I have got a few things to say, and obviously we're trying to fit it all in. But, right, okay, what you've gone through, I always say, right, we could go through the worst things in our life, but when you look back on what you've gone through and how far you are now, sometimes you go, I was meant to go through that. The universe worked that way because I weren't meant to work as a prison officer. I weren't meant to be with him anymore. Where are you now? What's your goals now? What's happening?
Well, in between trying to move to the Green, HMP Birmingham, I was trying to channel my inner anger. Normally when I'm angry and pissed off in life, I can fuck my own life up even more. And I massively follow the law of attraction. That's my religion. Don't know if
don't have time to read that much lately, but definitely.
I love that. So at the time, I remember cutting down a tree in my garden with a handsaw, and I was just letting out all my frustration on this tree. And I thought, okay, I need to stop and have a quick fag break. I was scrolling through social media, and I just saw an advert. Have you worked within the prison service and would like to take part in a TV show? And I ended up getting the role for that TV show. And I think that all that anger building up over the 2 years, when I hit social media, I wasn't even on TikTok. I didn't have TikTok or know how to use it 2 years ago. A video of me from the TV show went viral, and that was me smoking a fag in a cell. So it was like all of these allegations for 2 years building of me being corrupt and this, that and the other. Yeah. When I finally let pop, it was at social media. I was like, right then, well, where's that fucking costume? Because if the public want to have a kick-off, I'm just about fucking ready for a kick-off.
Did you have a line to say?
No, I just hit 3, 2, 1 live on TikTok and in my costume. And yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that they're nice to me now, but it's not always the case. But when I first started, it was very much just, you fat fucking slag. I remember once on one of them, very early on, I had my eyelash hanging off. And one of the girls was laughing, look at you, your eyelashes hanging off. I was like, fuck my lashes, you just fucking rip them off. Couldn't give a shit.
Everyone will get haters and that, but you know what, right? Who's listening? Don't listen to the haters, because if you listen to the haters, you'll never get to where you want to be. And at the end of the day, any haters, Mel, you're renting a space in their head for nothing. So, you know what I mean?
I always say to them, you don't hate me. You do not hate me. You don't know me. You hate that uniform.
You do, yeah.
And it ain't even a fucking uniform. It's a costume. But God, they'd take it. I remember getting into a battle with someone on TikTok. He spat at his own fucking phone. I'm like, mate, you've just spat at your own phone because you hate me. And I'm not even a fucking officer anymore. It's just a costume. It's cosplay. But yeah, that's sort of how it just blew. I just lost my shit and just thought, it's one thing to be called corrupt in the actual job. In my head, I was thinking, oh, well, this is maybe why it wasn't meant to be then. Maybe I was meant to end up on TV. And then when that snippet went viral, I just thought, I'm having my say back. And it worked. It did. It was a springboard, because I think I ended up with something like 10,000 followers.
Wow.
Hit the Creative Rewards Creative Rewards program on TikTok.
What was your line on TV? You do an impression with your cigarette.
It wasn't a line. It wasn't a line. So it was a social experiment.
Yeah.
They rented out, Channel 4 rented Shrewsbury Prison, which is a prison now that's closed for prisoners but open to the public. So they rented that out for 10 days, and they put approximately 40 ex-offenders in there.
So you can rent them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really good, actually, though. You can rent for different things, great escapes, there's ghost hunts and stuff like that. It is interesting. Yeah. But they rented it for 10 days, put in 40 ex-offenders that have been to prison, and then they drip-fed 7 celebrities in there. Wow. So we didn't have any lines. We just had what a prison officer would call an unlock list. So we just knew where the prisoners were and where they had to be. And it was a social experiment more so, because what they wanted, the they wanted to give a real representation of prison. So by going on there with scripts and lines, it's never going to work. So they just gave us our unlock list, and it was a bit like Big Brother. You never saw any producers or anything like that. When you were on set, it very much felt like a prison. There was no, cut or whatever or anything like that. It just you just rolled with it. It was good. It was great. Yeah,
just go off the cuff.
that was it. And that was it. I think my first couple of days was you're aware of the cameras.
Yeah.
And as much as I like to come across, I mean, I'm letting myself go a little bit. Normally, I would have my nails done, my lashes done. I'm on a sunbed. Even though internally I'm not very feminine, I just like to look feminine. I like to look pretty, but really, I think I am a bit of, I'm a bit of a fucking bloke. I wouldn't even say tomboy. I went on that show, and every 10 minutes I was in the toilet making sure I weren't shiny. And then by the end of the 10 days, it was 32 degrees heat. I remember sitting out on the yard with Neil Parish. He was the ex-MP, the one that got caught watching porn in Parliament.
Oh, wow, okay.
So obviously an ex-MP
Stuff that goes on, eh?
The lads
Behind
just
the
rinsed
scenes.
him. You're fucking having a wank, you're knocking one out. And by the end of it, I remember sitting on the yard, pretty much like this, like a geezer, puffing on my vape. Forgot the cameras was there. And I said, oh, fuck it, Neil, who ain't watched porn? I've watched porn. Every fucker's watched porn. Maybe not at work, but we've all watched porn. And then I just quickly thought, shit.
You're going to make me go there, yeah. I don't, by the way.
But I don't believe it.
I'm too busy.
I believe it now.
I've got to go red now, yeah. Oh, let's move on.
It just went from there, and I just,
So how, obviously, you're a mum and you're doing what you're doing. You're managing and okay and everything. No, you're not.
Not really.
You just...
I find it difficult.
Yeah.
If I'm being completely honest, adapting to being a content creator, being my own boss, going from a salary to being self-employed, as well as juggling 2 kids, I do find difficult. I'm really ambitious and I want to get there yesterday. And I have to remind myself that, I watch a lot of people, follow The Secret, and people that follow The Secret, influential people. And, I look back, Sylvester Stallone, he openly says, I was that career driven. I'm now an old man and my kids have grown up and my wife's, she's not around anymore. And I think, what have I got for it? I do want a career, but I just don't want to get lost in this rat race and forget that I've got 2 kids there that I need to try and inspire. I want to keep a clean, tidy home. I want to be at home to do the meals and do the shopping and do all of those things. So I do find it difficult, but I'm still loving it. I'm really grateful. I know that there's a lot of officers that, although you wouldn't believe it, there are officers that care and give a shit, and they would give anything now to be in my position. It's a lovely position. I can go on holiday, take my phone with me, and as long as I've got internet, I can work from wherever I am. Going from 14 hours on a landing, potentially 5 days on the straight.
14 hours.
It's
hard.
I mean,
I'm a businesswoman, and obviously, you work 24/7, more or less.
You don't switch off, do you, anymore?
I definitely don't.
I miss when I used to switch off.
You've got to jump into mum then, haven't you, with your children, and still try and make ends meet.
I always say, I love being a woman, but to be born a woman, I do feel comes with restrictions, more restrictions and less opportunities.
Yeah.
You can reach for the stars just after you've done that load of washing and the sink full of washing up and you've fed the kids. I'll watch my partner, and I'm not bitching about him. He's self-employed too, but when you look at how much money and time goes into my work in comparison to his, I feel like I've got rights to complain. But then I do say to myself, it's beautiful to be a mum. Yeah. My kids don't love anyone the way they love mum. So for that reason, I will take it. But for any other reason, I wouldn't.
I think what you've experienced and that through your life and that, have you ever thought of doing your own book?
Yes, I have. I have thought about doing my own book. I would love to do my own book for people that are kinesthetic learners like prisoners. Because I'll say to the prisoners, the amount of prisoners I've said, have you read The Secret? They won't read. They're not, if the education system in prison is very similar to the education that we've got out here in schools. If that didn't work for 16 years, keeping them in education, they've ended up in prison, sitting them down and saying, read this and then write that, that's not going to work either. So I'd love to not necessarily create a book, but maybe create some content where I can educate people on The Secret. I read that book when I was 19 years of age.
Yeah,
I'm 33 now. I know that book from start to finish. And I can teach people this book. I can help people. I just haven't quite got to grips with how. I don't see me writing a book sort of like my prison life or my journey.
Yeah. So where The Secret is like reminds us like, so, right, I'm going to read a paragraph, and they're only short, aren't they? Because obviously you got the book and then you got the other one, haven't you, with the shorter ones, and they're just like little reminders for you to stay positive and stuff like that. So you could just have off the cuff with Mel book, couldn't you? You know, and little reminders of like, you know, what they've got at the end when they do come out, what did they see themselves doing and all this and that. But
I think because I've gone from, you know, very quiet life, settled life, go to work, come home, pick up a salary, to now this, I almost feel like I've got that many opportunities. I don't even know which ones to choose, which ones the right ones. So I'm just trying to breathe and just enjoy it. You know, like today, there's that many things that have gone wrong. And then on the way here, I've just thought it was just meant to be that way. It was meant to be. You was meant to get there at 7. Enjoy it.
Yeah. I've had one of them days where everything's like, oh, what? Everything's just like, oh my God, I've just dropped this, just done that. And then the last thing was my shades went into the washing bowl, and I was like, oh, I'm just having one of them days. You know what I mean? But
I'd rather my shades end. Well, it depends how much your shades were, I suppose. But I'd rather lose my shades that I'll pay like £2 for than put petrol in a diesel car. But hey ho, you know.
No. Do you know what? You're still living and breathing, and you know what, right? Okay, it's only going to get better for you, okay? You said it all happened a year ago. Look where you are now. You're doing fun things. You've got, I don't know how many, on TikTok, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've seen briefly, but I'm constantly busy myself.
I
So
get it.
it's such a pleasure to actually have you in to know more about yourself. But things will get better.
I hope so.
You don't have to see the old staircase, Mel. Just take the first step and then just ease your way up them stairs. And you'll soon be at the top of that mountain, lovely.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. My mantra, I don't know, have you seen the Harry Potter films?
No, because my son ruined it for me.
Oh, okay.
Because he goes, Mum, we'll watch this bit, but I've seen that bit now. And I went, but I thought you'd waited for me to watch the rest of that. No, I've watched that one, so now I'm watching this episode. So we end up watching a bit of that, then a bit of this, and then a bit of that. And I haven't watched them all because he spoilt it for me when he was younger, unfortunately.
There's a bit in the Harry Potter film, and they're all trapped in branches. I know it's like a fantasy film, but Harry Potter's the only one that relaxes. And when he relaxes, these branches loosen, and then he falls through to the next level. And then he shouts to his friends, relax and you'll fall through. And when I look back on my life, I've always been a control freak. And for as much as I've tried to control my car going this way, the universe will come along and be like, no, you're taking a right.
Yeah.
So now I do have this sort of, as for hate, I have to remind people, I've just fucking left the biggest prison in the country, male prison. That's where you see hate. That men, you can smell the breath. The spit's landing on your lip. They're threatening to take your fucking head off. Some Lorraine from Kent on TikTok calling me a rat is not going to make me go to sleep and fucking sit there crying about it. So, you know, that sort of stuff doesn't bother me. But as in letting go of just life in general, like what's meant to be will be. All the shit I used to worry about 10 years ago, I don't worry about now.
Just let it go over your head.
Just that fucking laid back at the minute, carefree.
So,
and it's working.
What's your days look like? Your day-to-day look like?
I like to get up and do the school run myself, come home and do a little bit of content recording, answering some of the questions that the public will ask, get dinner prepped, get the kids home from school, get them fed, spend some time with them, and then when they're in bed, I'll then go live and talk to the public. I like to go and interview someone at least once a week, but that hasn't been running very smooth lately with people not being on time or cancelling last minute and things like that. But yeah, my plans are to just keep going out, meeting different offenders and whacking them on my TikTok until the public fall in love with them and give them a bloody break. That's the plan.
Come up with a good little drama series. Well, I hope this podcast helps your progress. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Mel, you've been amazing. Thank
very
you
much.
so much for coming
No
on.
problem.
I'm going to keep an eye on your TikTok. I must follow you.
I'm aiming
Yeah.
for 1 million followers.
A million?
Well, I'm already. I said in the first year I would go to 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
And I've done that in 8 months. I'm now on, I think, 210,000 followers, and I'm going to be hitting my 2-year mark on the app in October time, November time. So I'm going to say that having watched other creators, the bigger you get on there, the faster the momentum.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping within another 2 years, I'm going to have hit 1 million. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm going to say it so it's
Excellent.
loud and clear. In 2 years, I'm
Well,
going to have hit 1 million followers.
Mel, I wish you all the best. And
Thank you,
again,
matey.
thank
I
you so much
appreciate
for
it.
coming on
No
board
problem. You were
and that.
welcome.
And it's been a pleasure to meet you.
You too, matey.
And
Thank you.
keep climbing up them steps.
I will try.
Thanks very much, Mel.